and I looked into the lies. Now, this may seem strange to some people. What really sealed it for me, and I'm going to put some clips in of this, was watching ex-occultist and ex-Satanist accounts. Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you are all doing well. So today I wanted to do a video kind of following up from the videos I've done before in terms of the New Age stuff and Jesus and the changes I'd made in my life and my journey. And I had quite a few questions after those videos, like what is it that made you change? What is it that led you to that? Why did I make those changes? And I kind of wanted to do a video talking a little bit more about that. Hopefully it may inspire some others to look into things, or it may resonate with certain people. Like I said, this is a very personal account. This isn't to judge what anybody else is doing. Just because I have certain beliefs doesn't mean I'm against other people's beliefs or I'm against religion or anything like that, because I am categorically not. As long as people are good people with good morals, we're good. But you know, we've all got individual beliefs, and like I've said this a million times before, we can all have different beliefs but have the same respect, which is something that sadly isn't that common. But that's something I truly believe in, because everybody's journey is their own journey, and that's between them and God. Like I said, that's for God to judge. You know, just because I don't believe in things doesn't mean I hate or dislike that person. So yeah, that's one thing that I wanted to make clear. This is a very personal account. Everybody's going to come to this information or their own conclusions in different ways. This is just my way. This isn't to judge or say this is the way to do it, but it may hopefully help some other people. But yeah, it was strange because, like I said, I've followed this new agey type stuff, this spiritual type stuff, probably ever since I kind of woke up, however, 8 to 10 years ago or whatever. And I came to realize probably about 4 to 6 weeks ago now that I was being deceived on that journey. And like I've done another video, my New Age video, that a lot of it is rooted in demonic backgrounds. It's deceitful, it's Luciferian. And I'm somebody who's open-minded. I will look into things and I will put my hands up when I'm wrong, because that's how we grow. And I think that is so important. We need to put our egos down when it comes to that. So I did that very quickly because I want to be on the right side of God. So me having my ego up, it's not going to do me any favors. So at the end of the day, that's kind of how I felt. And I think I don't agree with a lot of what the teachings in New Age. Like I said, I think a lot of it is in demonic backgrounds. It's using things that they shouldn't be. It's covered up to be good when it isn't. The fact that, you know, there's this whole notion that we are God. Like, to me, that is just insane. Like, I ask people, did you create the heavens and the earth? Are you all knowing? You know, do you know the end day? Because even the devil doesn't know that. But if you're God, then you would. You know, like, do you know do you know my future path? And I think, you know, you can get some bits of information from the demonic world, which obviously I do not recommend, because the sacrifice is worse than what you're gaining. That's the problem. And it's very deceitful again, and you might get parts, it might lead you in the wrong way, whereas God's not going to do that. So for me, it was a concept that even when I was in the New Age stuff, that was one thing I still didn't accept, because it just didn't feel right to me. So yeah, that's kind of one thing. But the weirdest thing is, now this was about 4 to 6 weeks ago now, when I started to realize, I had a friend mention something to me before about yoga. I didn't dismiss it, but I didn't overly research it, but it kept in the back of my mind. And this is what you call planting seeds, which is why it works so well. And then God will show you, and you'll kind of be more like, oh, but I've heard this before. It'll ring a bell, which is why it's so important that people put out their stories. It may plant seeds in other people. And basically, I don't know how I found this channel, but it was the channel Truth Unedited. Now, a lot of people, if you've seen this channel, you will know I love this channel. I think the presenter is very fair. I just really love the channel. I love the animation. I think it's brilliant. I think it's really educational. And I found this channel on YouTube, Truth Unedited, and I started watching this series called The History of Religion. Now, it was 20 parts long. Now, obviously I have some knowledge in religion, of course. I've always believed, and again, this isn't to judge other people or to hate against anything else. This is my own personal belief that religion is a man-made concept. That doesn't mean I don't believe there isn't truth, but I believe there's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of, you know, man's had their hands on a lot of things, including books, and there's bits missing, there's bits added, there's some that's done by man's vote. Like, to me, it just, although I believe the basis of the story, which is why I read the Bible, I do believe the basis of the story, and I do believe there are, with that, in terms of, you know, accurate manuscripts and things like that, or fairly, I should say. They're not, you can never say accurate, but, you know, there are more manuscripts and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, people can debate about that all day, and that's fine. But for me, I still don't believe in religion as a concept. And a lot of people, because I put out saying that I believe in Yeshua, I believe in the history of the Israelites, I believe in God, automatically went, oh, you're Christian, which is fine, because, you know, nothing wrong with that. You would, of course, that's the first thing you would immediately think. But as I said, I do not believe in religion as a construct, so I wouldn't technically label myself as a Christian because of that reason. And because there's a lot of deceit in that today. There's a lot of false teachings, this whatever new age Christianity that I'm not a fan of, and I just think there's a lot of deception. There's a lot of people not teaching spiritual warfare and just things that I don't agree with. So I sort of follow my own instincts and my own path. That's my own decision and my own beliefs. But for me, that's why I don't label myself as that, because I still believe that. And I think people may have got the impression that I've changed that belief, and I haven't. So I just wanted to make that very clear. Not that I'm judging people that do, but that's, for me personally, that's just what feels right. There was a statement, was it in Prodigy's album, probably not long before they killed him, where he said religion is, what did they say? False to the common. No, sorry, they said religion is truth to the common, false to the wise, and useful to the elite. And that's something that I've stood by. And again, like I said, that doesn't mean that I don't believe there is truth, because obviously I wouldn't have these beliefs if I, you know, didn't think that. So I do believe there is truth, and I do use the Bible obviously as a guide. I do believe there's a lot of truth in it, but I do believe there's obviously parts that possibly missing or slightly altered, who knows. So, you know, and if you do your research, it's not hard to start to see this. So yeah, that was one thing. So I found this channel and I liked it because he had these same views as me. He had that same concept where he wasn't trying to talk about things he didn't understand. He wouldn't have a view on that, which I think is great. I think we all need to do that. It would be a better world if we did. And also I think he was very fair the way he gave across. He was very polite the way he gave across his views. There's nothing wrong with sharing views, even if they're not the most popular, but it's sometimes the way we go about it and the respect we have when we do that. And I really respected the way he did that. Other people may not feel the same, but I really did. So that was something I really liked. And I just thought it was very educational. He clearly done a lot of research, and it's fit up with the research that I had done. And then I started to realize maybe things are a little bit deeper than what I originally thought. Maybe there's more to this. I obviously have heard of Jesus, Yeshua. I don't use the name Jesus mainly because I feel like it's kind of a westernized version, like the way they paint him to be white and stuff. So I prefer using that name. However well I pronounce that, I don't know. My pronunciation in most things is terrible. But yeah, so that's what kind of led me to it. I thought it was about a 70-part series. As I said, it was long, and I'm actually watching it twice over. And that's what led me to start. I then started doing Bible studies. A friend linked me up to some people that I felt suited me. For me, I'm not just going to go to any church or any place. It has to be someone that I resonate with. Otherwise, I don't want to go somewhere that's teaching things that I don't feel is correct, you know, so I wanted to find that, and luckily I did. Obviously being in lockdown, there's not a lot I can do right now in terms of gatherings, but I do the online studies and things like that. So that's the channel that kind of made me think, okay, there's more to this story than what I thought. I always believed in the history of the Israelites, but I never studied it properly. The more I started to study that, the more that linked in with me, with my beliefs as well, and started to put more pieces to the puzzle, I should say. So I was like, okay, obviously I knew of them and I believed in them, of course, you can't really deny that, but I never really looked into it, read into the story. And that I would really recommend to people that are looking into this, look up the history of the Israelites. And that channel actually does talk a lot about it as well, which I think is fascinating. That played a big part for me. So yeah, I looked into that, and I looked into the lies. Now, this may seem strange to some people. What really sealed it for me, and I'm going to put some clips in of this, was watching ex-occultist and ex-satanist accounts. Now, that may sound strange to some people, but for me, and whether this is the right or wrong way to think, to some degree, I do feel it is right. If something's being pushed a lot, or it's being persecuted a lot, or hidden a lot, I automatically think there has to be some type of truth in it, because otherwise, why else would that be the case? You know, they always go out their way to hide it. And that's why I feel like I've come to realize the truth is so narrow. And I realized, I watched people like John Ramirez, Brother Matthew, I can't remember, Jenny Weaver, the ex-witch. I watched a few other people's as well. I can't remember all their names, so apologies. But they all seem to have a similar story. And that it seemed to be the same sort of thing. Like John Ramirez was saying, well, the only people that the witchcraft wouldn't work against were the true believers of Yeshua. Not the people that just said it but didn't live their life, live that life, the people that were true believers. And sometimes, and there were even stories that I watched a lot of African witch doctors who had reformed, and a lot of them were saying the same thing. the demon would come back to them and said, their God's protecting them, do not send me back there or I'll come for you. And it seemed to be the same story over multiple accounts of occultists, but I didn't hear it with anything else apart from Yeshua and that story. So I started to think, that's strange. To me, that was something that was strange. It may not be to other people, this is just my opinion, but to me that was like, okay, that's strange.
It was Nicky Cruz people.
Yeah, wow.
Nicky Cruz. It was called Truce. Truce is Nicky Cruz young people. So when I went, I released witchcraft upon them. And when they released a fire right back and it hit me. Then all my witchcraft to the floor. And the witchcraft hit me in my chest. Hit me in my chest and it almost broke my chest. I felt like someone punched me right in my chest. I said, what they hit me with? I never had Christians hit me that hard.
God.
so I was trying to get my breath while my tears were coming out. That's how hard they hit me. They hit me so hard, my tears were coming out. I felt human. I couldn't believe it. Then I chased them again to try to hit them again. And then a wall of fire came around them. I couldn't touch them. And it's because they've been in the holies of holies.
Wow.
They've been with God. And I couldn't touch them. And even when I used to astral project and leave my body, that I used to curse region. You see, my assignment was to leave my body, astral project, and curse the region, because if I can curse the region, I can curse the people.
Then I saw a video where a lot of celebrities, I'm going to put some clips in here now, where they were doing, I don't know if it was an award show or some of them were just on their general shows, and they were always bashing Yeshua. And I thought, why bash that prophet but no one else? Especially as I know they're devil worshippers. But and adding in the fact that these other devil worshippers didn't like that either. And another thing that, sorry, just to skip back, that John Ramirez also said, when someone came to ask him to kill someone or put witchcraft on someone, he obviously would get money for that. Whereas when it was a Christian, he'd say, oh, I'll just do that for free. So I started to think, why only then would you do that for free? Do you know what I mean? Like, there was just so many things that didn't add up to me, and their stories did kind of buy me into it a bit more, because I thought, if that's what they're against in the opposite, that maybe there's some truth in this.
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God now.
So this is what led me down to it. Then I started to look into a lot more of what's going on in Israel, you know, with Israel and Palestine, and look back into that story. And I think this tiny, small bit of land in this whole world, why so much argument over this bit of land? You know, like, why all this war? Why are the elite, you know, when you get people like the Rothschilds who call Israel their second home, I call them the serpent seed bloodline, the evil ones. We know all these rich elite bankers and stuff like that. Like, why are they so interested in this one place? Obviously, we know it as the Holy Land because it's the history of the Israelites. It's God's chosen people's land. Then I started to think, well, is that because obviously there's so much truth in this? That's why the elite are so heavy on going after this and so heavy on the deceit. And that's another thing that started to make me think, wow, like, that has to be a powerful God to come for this story to come for this small bit of land, spread this far and cause this many problems over it, you know? It's crazy. Obviously there's other factors in it, but I'm just talking about in relation to this, but it's crazy to me. You know, and I thought to myself, like, there has to be more to this. And I think that's what made me realize that it's a lot deeper than what I thought. And I actually realized it was a lot stricter than what I thought. Now, I wasn't living a mad life or anything like that, but even certain things that in this day and age we get to accept as normal because we're probably programmed that way. We're brainwashed to think it's normal, you know, and you just don't you think, oh no, that's not that bad, but you don't realize that it really is, and it really can affect your afterlife and getting into the kingdom. And that's another thing where I said, wow, I've got to make some changes. And these aren't, to me, it's not like some people say, oh, it's like a rule book. It's like a rule book. And like I said, I don't believe in religion as a construct, but I do believe in the teachings. Like I said, Christianity back then wasn't called Christianity. It was called the Way. So who named it? Do you know what I mean? It's like man named it that. So for me, it was like, to me, it's not a rule book. It's basic bloody morals. Do you know what I mean? Like, treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated yourself, you know, or treat your neighbor as how Yeshua would treat them. Love your neighbor, don't murder, you know, don't go around being sexually promiscuous. Like, to me, that's just general stuff that to me wouldn't obviously feel right anyway. Even though all of us has sinned to some degree and made mistakes, it doesn't mean just because I've done that I felt deep down that it was right. And maybe some people are brainwashed and programmed enough to feel it is, I don't know. But like I said, there's so many things they throw at us with the media and over-sexualization and violence and video games and music and movies, and like we're just constantly, especially kids, they got this stuff thrown at them, and all they're doing now is probably on video games and all this kind of stuff. We can see how things have changed over the years, and to me it's just making these things normal when they're not, and they're just desensitizing us to everything. And to me that stuff's just normal. It's not a rule book to follow that's so hard and strict. It's just being a good effing person. Do you know what I mean? Like, just bloody be nice to each other. Clearly that's hard these days, but so it can only make you a better person anyway. Whereas doing white magic and things, oh well, it might be bad but I'll just do it anyway, if that is bad, that can be detrimental. Whereas if this isn't going to be detrimental because it's just making me a better person. Do you see what I'm saying? But for me, that stuff is like, why would I even bother tempting it, even if I'm not sure? You know, like, because it's not worth it to me, especially considering we're in end times. So yeah, I would honestly say it was researching ex-occultists, ex-Satanists, their stories, researching some of the celeb Satanists, seeing what they're saying, looking into the history of the Israelites and really looking into our history. Even when you look into the story of like Atlantis, I believe that's a real place. The Nephilim, obviously there's so much evidence of giants. Even when you look into things like the Neanderthals. Now, you get people like Greg Braden. Now, I don't really trust these scientists anymore. I'll do another video on this. But you get people like Greg Braden that say things like, of course, I believe we do not come from monkeys. But they would say like things like, oh yeah, our chromosome 2 came about so quickly that we couldn't have come from evolution, which I agree with. But then they'll say things like, but we've got no DNA match, no exact DNA match to Neanderthals. And I'm like, so that begs a question. Now, I started researching into, well, then what does the Bible say about Neanderthals now? Because I wanted to know. And it was interesting because when I looked into the science, there's actually, forgive me if I'm wrong here, I think it's a 1.3% mitochondria difference in the DNA. That is fucking minute. So there's no reason why there couldn't have been a slight change. So I was like, hold on a sec, they make it out like we're totally different. I didn't even realize that the DNA was that small, because when Greg Braden talks about it, he doesn't tell you the percentage. Well, not in the videos I watched, correct me if I'm wrong if he's done it in other places, but I was like, okay, that would make more sense. It could make just slight genetic changes. But anyway, I'm going off on a slight tangent here, but looking into all of that stuff, looking into the evidence of the giants that links up to the Nephilim story, and, you know, even if you look up the mud floods and all that kind of stuff, like, you just realize there's so much history they have lied to us about. Because some people might think, oh, she believes in all this weird godly stuff now, you know, like stuff that people that don't believe in this stuff are gonna feel that way. But when you really look up your history, there is so much evidence that relates to this exact freaking story. You know what I mean? Like, really, you got to look up your history, because pretty much our whole history they've lied to us about. Not all of it. You get taught bits of truth, of course. It's easier to believe that way. But tell a lie long enough and it becomes the bloody truth, right? So when you start to research yourself, there's bloody evidence for this stuff. It's just not being taught mainstream in schools or put on the TV all the time. But if you do your research, and that's how I came to realize, hold on a sec, this adds up. You know, like, it's hard to say, oh, I believe in the history of the Israelites and deny Yeshua. You know, there's even certain historic scholars that would say that there's proof you walk the earth. They didn't say anything other than that. But, you know, and it's like, people don't see this stuff. It doesn't get shown to them. Where I don't believe they're ever going to show us the real manuscripts. They're probably hiding them in the vaults in the Vatican somewhere. You know, that's why I say to people, we can't ever say, oh yeah, this is 100% right. Because it's like, come on, like, they're ever going to show that stuff to us. We know they've hidden that somewhere. They fucking hide everything. So, you know, like, to me, it was really researching history and really looking into these ex-occultist and Satanist stories to realize what was going on, looking at what's happening to certain people today in terms of following the curses of Deuteronomy and what happened to the history of the Israelites. And, you know, like, there's just so much history we don't get taught that you really realize we really literally know nothing. So it's very interesting. So that I just wanted to kind of sum that up. So if anyone is interested, there's so many videos. I will put some links to some of them in the description box below, but I've watched so many, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember all of them. But if you just start typing in YouTube like mud floods or DuckDuckGo, stuff is going to come up. You know, start typing in like, I just went on DuckDuckGo and typed in, what does the Bible say about Neanderthals and things like that. So, you know, like DuckDuckGo obviously F Google, a lot more gets brought up on there. So I would just suggest to start reading into these things and read as many sources as you can, because some may be more biased. Read as many as you can. Read into the history of the Israelites. Read into the bloodlines and who comes from what bloodline. That will tell you a lot today about who the Israelites are. Read into that stuff and come to your own conclusions. Like I said, other people, and I think putting out stories is great as a seed in people's minds, and that's what I would love to do, but it's not to tell people believe what I'm telling you. It's to come to your own conclusion. Like I said, the truth is never taught, it's always learned, and that's how I feel I came to it. And I do believe the more you look into this stuff, the more God will show you things. And I say to people, pray. This is how, you can't believe everything people say, but this is how I come to these conclusions, because I pray on things like, please show me, am I on the right path? Pray to God, ask him to show you, is this the right place? If not, is this the right knowledge? If not, please steer me in the way that is, and I feel like that really has helped guide my journey. So I hope that gives people a bit more of an insight, maybe some inspiration into things. And if you do have any questions, please do put them below, and I hope to see you in my next video.